Welcome, everyone. So today, we're going to cut through all the noise and the hype around artificial intelligence. We're getting straight to the point. What can you, as an English language teacher, actually do with it in your classroom, like tomorrow? We are moving from theory straight to the task.
So we saw this fantastic comment from Mahmoud, and you know what? We heard you loud and clear. These are the exact questions that got us thinking and inspired this entire explainer. So, Mahmoud, this one's for you. Consider this our direct answer, a really practical guide packed with tasks you can use right away and all those little details you've been asking for.
All right, here's our game plan. First, we're going to jump into a super dynamic speaking role play. Then we'll shift gears to a reading and writing task that gets students to connect ideas. After that, a really clever way to have students discover grammar. Then we'll get into the nitty-gritty, the logistics. And finally, we'll zoom out and see how all this changes your role as a teacher. Okay. Our main goal here is to close that gap between just talking about AI and having a concrete lesson plan in your hand that you can actually use. So let's get right to it. Okay, let's dive into our very first task. This is a speaking activity, and what I love about it is that it creates this safe, really low-pressure space for students to practice real-world conversations. You know, that's something that can cause so much anxiety for learners. The objective here, well, it's simple, but it's incredibly powerful. We want students to build their conversational confidence. They get to practice with an AI partner that gives them instant, private, and totally non-judgmental feedback, which, let's be honest, is almost impossible for one teacher to give to 30 students all at once. And check out this flow. It guides students through a whole learning cycle in about 20 minutes. First, you prime them. You set the scene. Then they pop the prompt into the AI. They have the actual conversation, and then, this is so important, they reflect on the AI's feedback and set a goal for themselves. It's a complete loop. Now, the secret sauce that makes this whole thing work is the prompt. It has to be precise. This is a template your students can literally copy and paste. Look at how it puts you in control of the AI. You set the role, the proficiency level, a limit on the number of turns, and you tell it exactly what criteria to give feedback on. This is how you make the AI a real teaching tool. All right, next up, let's build on that and look at a more complex integrated skills task. Here, we're not just using AI for practice. We're using it as a tool to help students actually analyze and pull together information from a couple of different places. So this task, it really pushes students past just basic reading comprehension. The goal is for them to learn how to pick out the main arguments in a couple of different texts, see how they connect, and then weave those ideas into their own balanced, coherent paragraph. This flow is just a perfect example of scaffolding. The AI does some of the heavy lifting up front, pulling out key points, suggesting an outline. But the really hard part, the core cognitive work of actually writing the paragraph, that is all on the student. Then the AI comes back in at the end as a revision partner. And this prompt right here is so key. By telling the AI, do not rewrite my text, you stop it from just doing the work for them. Instead, it acts like a writing coach. It gives them just a few high-impact suggestions and explains why, which forces the student to actually think critically about the feedback. Okay, now for a classic challenge, teaching grammar. But instead of a boring lecture, this task uses AI to create a guided discovery. It's an experience that research shows is a way more effective and memorable way for students to actually learn grammar structures. See, the objective isn't to just tell the students the rule. It's to have them discover it for themselves. By looking at patterns and a bunch of examples, they build their own understanding of the grammar point, and that leads to much deeper learning. This three-step process is just a beautiful scaffold. First, students just notice the different forms. They sort them. Then the AI starts asking these guiding questions like, hey, which of these sentences talk about a specific time? That helps them build the rule. And then finally, they jump into using it themselves. What makes this so effective is that the practice is real. It's communicative. The student isn't just filling in blanks on a worksheet, they're having a conversation. And the feedback they get is super specific, targeting the errors they actually made in their own sentences. Okay, so let's get into those excellent, really practical questions about how you actually pull this off in a real classroom. Phones or computer lab? Headphones or no headphones? Let's get down to the details. The choice really just comes down to the task you're doing. Quick, bite-sized activities like that speaking role play or the grammar noticing task. They work perfectly on a student's phone. But for those more complex, text-heavy tasks like the reading-to-writing synthesis, an IT lab with a proper keyboard and a bigger screen is probably going to be your best bet.
Yes, the big classroom management question. Getting this right can seriously make or break the activity. And the answer is a pretty clear yes, but with a few important exceptions.
The rule of thumb is super simple. If the AI is talking, or your students are talking to the AI, then headphones are an absolute must. Otherwise, your classroom is going to get chaotic fast. Here's a pro tip. Ask them to keep one earbud out. That way they're still aware of you and the class. And hey, if you're short on devices, just have students pair up with a cheap headphone splitter. It works great.
So you end up with this really powerful feedback loop. The students get that instant, personalized correction right from the AI. Meanwhile, you, the teacher, can check in on their process later by collecting artifacts like screenshots or chat logs. It gives you this amazing window into their entire interaction.
So if the AI is handling all these personalized drills and giving instant feedback, where does that leave you, the teacher? Well, it doesn't mean you're being replaced. It means your role gets elevated. You move from being the main source of information to being the architect of the entire learning experience.
This quote just nails it, doesn't it? The AI becomes your co-teacher, your assistant. It handles all that repetitive, administrative stuff, which frees you up to focus on the deeply human parts of teaching, designing creative lessons, giving emotional support, and leading really great discussions. So the real question isn't if AI is going to change teaching. It's how are you going to harness its power? The goal isn't just to use a new shiny tool. It's to use that tool to become an even more effective, more creative, and more supportive educator for your students. The possibilities are really just beginning.